Hello, everybody. Welcome to our July webinar. Welcome to MemoryFox's webinar series. We are here, the end. July is getting so close to the end. I can't even believe it. I mean, we only have like a week left at this point. If you are on my email list, which you probably are if you're here today, you have probably heard that we're doing the Summer Storytelling Blitz. That's going to continue towards the end of July. We're giving away a $500 donation to story submitters. An entry for a $500 donation for one lucky story submitter. And then we are giving away a MemoryFox account this month as well. So lots of good stuff on the horizon here at MemoryFox. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to learn from Joshua Garcia. So while we were prepping for this webinar, turns out Joshua's having just a little bit of a video issue. So no problem though, because he's mostly going to be sharing his slides and his screen anyway. So he's actually going to stay off video. But as always, we encourage people to be active in the chat. Give us those questions and I'll save those for Josh at the end. And what else? Oh, I'm recording the webinar. You'll all get a copy of the recording, and you will also get to hear from Joshua after the webinar as well. So really looking forward to that. And then I see people are still joining, so thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Anybody who is here already, let us know what mission you serve. I love to see the impact in the room. That's one of my favorite things about hosting these webinars. Let me know where you're calling in from, what mission you are working so hard at, and thanks again for taking the time to learn from MemoryFox, but mostly from Josh today. And with that in mind, if anybody doesn't know how MemoryFox works and wants to stay at the very end for a quick demo, I would love to tell you about it or answer any questions you have about MemoryFox. But of course, again, that's not what you came here for. You came here to learn from Josh. So Josh from Mightycause, I'm going to pop it over to you. Take it away. Tell us about donor engagement. I'm so excited for this.
Awesome. Well, everyone, really excited to be here today. My name is Josh Garcia. I am a fundraising development coordinator at Mightycause. I'm actually a manager who leads my team of fundraise development coordinators there. I've been working in this space for about a decade now, specifically in the online fundraising space. I've worked with nonprofits, literally all sizes, from the very small to the very large. Uh, Really for everybody, regardless of your size. There are a lot of fundraising truths and things that are very much the same and important to be able to focus on. And those are really about how we engage and build relationships with our donors. So that's what we will be walking through here today. So I'm going to share my screen. All right.
That looks great.
So already introduced myself. This obviously no video today, but this is what I would look like if my video was working. Really excited to walk everybody through this here today. So just a little bit about us at Mightycause. We're an organization that's been around since 2006. We work specifically with nonprofits, and what we provide is a year-round, all-in-one platform built for specifically nonprofits. It's a full suite of fundraising tools, peer-to-peer fundraising, donation pages, donor management, a lot of different beneficial aspects to what we provide there, as well as a ton of resources. So if you ever go to mightycause.com, I host webinars there. We have blog posts, how-tos, tips, and guides. So a lot of ebooks, so a lot of fun resources there. Again, bit of an overview of just who we are. So we do everything from our products, processing donations. We integrate with a number of other tools like Salesforce, MailChimp, Constant Contact, and Eventbrite, donor management, and analytics and data. So if after the webinar, you want to check out a little bit more, you can actually just go to our website, and it is everything we have on there is free. So today we're going to be talking about, again, tips and tricks for donor engagement. We're going to be talking about some of the basics of donor engagement. We'll talk about donor retention, which is one of the things that throughout my entire career I've always been a big preacher and believer of, is focusing on donor retention. We'll talk about how to utilize peer-to-peer fundraising. how that can help us build relationships with our existing donors and find new donors to build relationships with, and the benefits of leveraging a donor management software with the focus of using that to keep those long-going relationships with our donors. And just a side note, again, we will be able to do a little bit of a Q&A session, but we're going to do that at the end of the presentation. So we'll have a designated Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, just jot those down, and I'll be happy to answer those after we walk through the presentation. So the donor engagement basics. What is donor engagement? Donor engagement is a cycle of relationship building with our donors that focuses on everything from the ask for a donation to the thank you to the follow-up that helps them understand the impact of their works, understand the impact of what you guys are doing, how their donations make an impact, what is on the horizon for you, keeping them involved and invested, and then repeating that cycle. So we're going to be talking a lot about donor retention today. One of the big things is that engaged donors are retained donors. So the better that you're engaging with your donors, the better that you are, or more likely you are to retain them. The number one reason why donors say that they do not follow up with a donation to a nonprofit is because no one followed up with them. When we receive a donation from somebody, that's just the beginning of what we call the donor life cycle. There's a lot of work that comes after the fact. So donor engagement is going to be very key to retaining those donors long term. Retained donors have a higher lifetime value to your nonprofit. So your nonprofit gets more value out of donor retention than acquisition. So the average nonprofit in America loses about 60% of their donors every single year, which means when they're trying to hit their fundraising goals, they are spending a lot of their effort every single year replacing that 60% that they lost. So they're kind of moving in a bit of a circle there, chasing their tail, rather than building off of the existing relationships of their donors and adding to it. That's what's going to allow us for growth. So people who are coming back year after year, building relationships, not only do they have a longer lifetime value, but it also leads to them becoming engaged in other ways, like volunteering, higher donations, participating in a peer-to-peer, maybe becoming a board member. Thinking about ways to be able to leverage our donor retention, one of the ways is to help us be able to increase the amount that we raise. So increasing individual gift size, for example. When donors are engaged, your nonprofit can work to increase their gift size. When we're increasing our gift size with retained donors and engaged donors, this is going to increase our nonprofit's overall revenue. So again, we're building off of an existing base rather than trying to start from scratch every single year, replacing those donors that we lost because we didn't engage them. So what we really want to think about is long-lasting relationships. A certified fundraising executive that I worked under many years ago always used the word and or phrase, and I've already mentioned this today, the donor life cycle. So we need to be thinking about not just chasing after that first gift, but thinking about the long-term sustainable engagement of our donors. So one of the big ways to do that is to get donor buy-in. When you think about it, a donation really is an investment in your nonprofit. It's an investment in your work. So we want them to get more engaged and more invested, both monetarily, but also emotionally, with the work that you do. So we want to be thinking about with these existing donors, all the different ways that they might become an asset to us in the long run. You don't get major donors off of your first gift. It is very, very rare that someone's first donation is going to be a major gift, and everyone's first donation is not reflective of their capacity to give as a whole. Major donors are cultivated through relationships, through thank yous, through understanding the impact of their work, through understanding the impact of their investment in you as a nonprofit. This also goes for volunteers, for board members, or for people who are going to be an enthusiastic supporter. Maybe they're not a major gift giver, but maybe there's someone that spreads word of mouth about the work that you do, that shares a fundraiser on their birthday for their friends and family members to donate. For people who are going to come again and volunteer and show up to some of your specific events. These are all really valuable aspects of a donor, And those are not going to come from just that first donation. It's going to come from us building relationships and building towards longer investment in you as an organization. So why recurring donors are awesome. Again, I mentioned they have a higher lifetime value than new or one-time donors. The average one-time gift in 2024 was $115. The average monthly gift in 2024 was $24 per month. That's $288. So that means $173 more dollars per monthly donor was the average. So when we start to think about 10 donors, 10 recurring donors, that is over $1,000 in that 1 year in increased revenue. And more importantly, as we look below there, predictable, sustainable revenue. I'm sure you've experienced this when you have been applying for grants before, but grant applications will want to look at your recurring donations and your sustainable revenue. Because if they're making an investment in you as a grantor, they want to know that you have other sources of funding reliable to be able to continue the work that you're doing and to grow and the capacity to be able to handle those additional grants and the work that will come along with it. So recurring donors are going to impact not just your overall revenue, but also a lot of important things like your grants. Ongoing support is also going to reduce your nonprofit's fundraising cost. Knowing that somebody is giving that monthly gift of $24 a month, that means less effort trying to find someone new to take that place. So stewardship is going to deepen our involvement in our nonprofits. So again, this leads to major gifts, to bequests, to volunteer work, to people wanting to be a board of director, to people hosting a peer-to-peer fundraiser, to people just being a big advocate, and again, sharing word of mouth. I'll give a great example of a nonprofit that I worked with and how they focused on recurring giving and why it was really successful for them. What they did was they took a look at what everyone had donated the year before, and they broke them into chunks, so little sections of dollar amounts. What this organization did as a mission is they provide housing as well as job training and sobriety programs, of other really great resources to unhoused members of their community. And what they did was they broke up those donations from the previous year, those one-time donations, and then they would ask people based on those amount for a specific amount monthly, and they would give a little bit of context on what it would accomplish. So let's say they take everybody between $100 and $250 of donations the year before. And they say, Dear Josh, thank you so much for your donation of $150 in 2024. Your donation helped provide 6 members of the community with their first night of safety and shelter at our home. This They might tell a little bit of a story. This is someone who's impacted by your work. Donations by individuals like you make our mission possible. For just $25 a month, every month you would provide another member of the community with their first night of safety and shelter here. Would you consider becoming a monthly donor today? Using that strategy, they had a 188% increase in donations from 1 year to the next. And what was really big and important about that is that big jump came from people who were already existing donors. But how they were able to do so was by thanking them for their gift, letting those people know what the impact of their gift was, helping them understand why their donation was important and what the actual end result is, and then giving them a specific reason and ask with an impact of how they can make that impact go further with a monthly gift. All that comes down to just strong tenets of donor engagement. So with our recurring donations, it's going to allow donors to be able to set up a monthly recurring donation. A lot of donors really like this because it is a bit of a set it and forget it. For example, I had a colleague whose father was a regular donor to their church, and he actually set up a monthly donation online because it was easier than writing a check every single month. Found that just a little bit more streamlined, was something that made it a little bit easier for him, and that way he knew that his donation was going to his preferred organization every single month. So having a tool like a Mightycause or something similar to that is going to allow you to be able to set up your donors a very easily monthly donation. What you then should be doing is plan to check in with and engage these donors throughout the year. So people who are monthly donors, we should be following up with them. We should be engaging with them. We should be soliciting their feedback. We should be letting them know about the impact of their work. And think of fun ways to be able to recognize them. Having a monthly donor thank you in your newsletter, for example. Having something on your website, creating like a fun name for it, like the sustainers, champions, things along those lines. So again, what we're going to want to do is make a targeted ask. So think about if we're looking at like in the example that I gave, someone who gave $120 last year, let's ask for 10, probably 15. Slightly bump them up the giving ladder because it's easier for people to give a larger amount broken over in monthly components than one large one-time gift. And again, it's easier for us as an organization to receive those monthly gifts rather than have to go and chase those large gifts every single year. So we want to help give them a little context. Your donation is going to allow us to do X, Y, and Z. This is not to be confused with a designation. It's not, the same as someone saying like, I wanted to go to this specific program. We're just helping them understand the equivalence of what this donation is going to be an impact of, and direct them to a page that's going to help them receive a monthly donation. Another way to do this that's really helpful is to make it our follow-up ask. So ask for that recurring donation from our one-time donors. Don't wait for people to decide to make a monthly donation on their own. And don't do it immediately after that donation. Again, we want to think about that cycle. You donated $15 to our last campaign. It helped us with X, Y, and Z. $15 a month would allow us to do A, B, and C. Through your donations, you would make this possible. Would you be a monthly supporter today? And make it very easy. Provide those links to their payment page. Have an embedded donation form on your website that lives within your site rather than going to like a third-party page like a PayPal. It's like a Mightycause page. That's something that's very simple. It's embedded within your website. It's a lot more trustworthy for people to make those sorts of contributions. We want to be thinking about our thank yous as well. Thank yous are over 90% of donors said that the thank you is the most important message that they receive from their donors or from their nonprofits. Not properly thanking donors and not helping them feel appreciated means that they're going to be looking for a nonprofit where they can feel that impact. Something that I was told once by another colleague that I work with, who is a professor in nonprofit management at the University of Chicago, was that when donors are making a donation, they're really seeing themselves as the one making the impact, and you as a nonprofit, the vehicle through which they're making that impact. So we really want to lean into that. We want with our thank yous to make them feel emboldened, to make them feel that they made this big impact through their gift. So when we're not providing the proper thank yous, we're losing out on opportunities to build relationships with our donors. We're losing out on opportunities again to cultivate the next generation of major gift givers, of recurring gift givers, of volunteers, of advocates. And again, as I was saying before, we end up chasing our tail. We end up churning our donors, and we spend the next year trying to replace them. And at best, we're coming back to where we were the year before, rather than building a base and growing from it. So what we want to think about is a true relationship. We do not want it to be just a series of asks. We don't want it to be just ask, thank you, ask, thank you. Your donors don't want to hear from you just one time a year. One of the biggest misconceptions that I work with nonprofits a lot is that they shouldn't be communicating with their donors too much. I completely disagree. You should be regularly communicating with your donors. There should be newsletters. There should be thank yous. There should be impact reports describing how a donation made an impact. There should be updates about some of the work that you've been doing this past year. There should be updates about some of your upcoming projects. There should be messages about opportunities for individuals to be able to get involved in peer-to-peer or in volunteers, but not just asks. That way, when we do come for an ask, that donor understands why we're at making that ask, why it's important that they continue to support us. So we really want to be focusing on keeping them informed, keeping them appreciated, and helping them know how they are making an impact through their work. So one of the easiest things to do, and something I work with nonprofits on a lot, is creating a communication plan. Let's think about from day one through day 90 through a year in, how are we going to be working with our organization or with our donors? We do the same thing at Mightycause. When a nonprofit signs up to work with Mightycause, we create an onboarding welcome journey. We think about, what are the ways that we're going to be able to help support them? How are we going to help them understand the different things that they can do within Mightycause? How are we going to make sure that they're learning, getting their answers questioned, starting to take bigger steps for newer and better ways that they can start to leverage their fundraising? When you're bringing on a new relationship with a donor, you should be doing the same thing. We should be thinking about, how do we want to introduce ourselves? Do we want to have, what should our first emails look like? Should there be a phone call? Should we send anything in the mail? There should be at least a quarter check-in. Honestly, I highly recommend it once a month. And a really important thing that you can do that goes a long way is create an annual report. At the end of every year, share a little bit about you, what you all did, how much you raised, where those dollars were going towards. Share, include financial information. Transparency is going to go a long way for nonprofits when they're looking about who to support. I mentioned this before. In our communications, let's include some donor gratitude. So donor gratitude keywords to your communications: because of you, with your help, supporters like you. This is not possible without our supporters. This should be on your donation page. This should be on your website. This should be in your newsletters. This should be in your thank yous. And then come up with ways to recognize them. Like I mentioned before, maybe include a donor of the month or a list of recurring donors in your newsletter. Do a social media spotlight. Um, Different ways to celebrate people who are getting involved and invested in you as an organization. That's not only going to go a long way for the donor that you're recognizing, but also for the other people who are coming across those posts, who are reading those newsletters, seeing that you're an organization that takes time to acknowledge those that are supporting you. That's going to go a long way in how they view you and their desire to build a relationship. So retention, we're going to really focus on donor retention as one of our most important things. If there's almost anything to take away from today's webinar, it's that donor retention is incredibly important. It costs 10 times less to retain a donor than it does to acquire a new one to take their place. 10 times more expensive finding a new donor than retaining the donor that you already have in place. So we're not just trying to maintain where we are by finding that, but we're in some instances trading backwards when we're trying to replace our donors on a year-to-year basis. Because you have to think about the time and the resources that it takes to acquire new donors and then to build upon that. When we're retaining our donor base, that's what allows us to actually grow, both in terms of revenue and in terms of number of donors. That's going to grow our impact. That's going to grow the amount of people who are seeing us. It's going to grow our visibility. And more donors is going to allow you to be able to shoot off in a lot of different ways that we can build relationships with them. Because those faithful donors, those are people who want to be a volunteer. Those are people that want to be an ambassador. Those are people that want to create a peer-to-peer fundraiser. Those are people that are interested in becoming a board member. Those are people who are interested in becoming an advocate. So what we should be doing is setting a retention goal. So think specifically about, how much did we raise last year? How many donors do we have? For us to build upon our budget for the upcoming year, this is how many of our donors that we need to retain, and this is how many of our donors that we want to convert to monthly donors. Tailor your communications to different segments of donors as well. So this is one of the big things that people leverage Mightycause for, is to be able to use their CRM, the Mightycause CRM, to be able to pull up very simply with easy reports donors based off of different donation amounts. Who's everybody that donated between $0 and $100 last year? Who's everybody that donated between 100 and 250? Who's donating towards specific programs? Mighty Cause donation forms can allow you to have a designation to your donation. And maybe if you're an animal organization, you might have specific programs. Another example of an organization that I worked with, Humane Society, who used a Mighty Cause custom question. So you can do custom questions on your Mighty Cause donation page to ask, what's your favorite animal, cats or dogs or both? It's a fun little survey question. Got good engagement because people who are donating to a humane society will go, oh, well, I'm a dog person, I'm a cat person. But what this allows them to do on the back end in the Mighty Cause CRM is label those individuals, create donor tags. This is everybody who said that dogs were their favorite. This is everybody who said cats were their favorite. Now what they can do is pull up that dog list and send them an email about donations that went towards some of their dog programs. They can tell them about some of the volunteer opportunities for their dog programs. When they have emergency funds that they need to raise for a rescue for a dog, they can send it to those individuals knowing that they're more likely to donate quickly. So find different ways to be able to not just send out mass communications, but be very specific and targeted with our communications. So these, again, some examples. Your $25 donation transformed a child's school year by providing them with a brand new backpack. Uh, Thank you for everyone. Donate to everybody who send an email to everybody who donated to your campaign. Thanks to your collective help, we provided 1,000 backpacks to students in need. Within Mightycause, we have very simple built-in retention reports. So if you don't have a CRM, this could be a little bit more complicated to be able to calculate in a spreadsheet. So in Mightycause, you'll just click on a donor retention report, which is a pre-built field, and you'll be able to see how many donors we have, how many donors have been retained, our retention rate, donations, donations retained. We can actually click in here and see when you're clicking around, you can actually see how much money and donations did we lose off of our non-retained donor. Next, we'll talk about peer-to-peer fundraising. Peer-to-peer fundraising is where individuals create fundraisers on behalf of a nonprofit. So you're probably very familiar with these from, for example, Facebook fundraisers for people's birthdays. That's an example of a peer-to-peer fundraiser. It's when an individual is raising funds on behalf of an org. These are really effective because the ask is coming from the individual that they know rather than the organization itself. People are 3 times more likely to donate to a nonprofit if they're asked by someone they know rather than the organization itself. People who are participating as a peer-to-peer fundraiser, that's building their emotional investment in you. They're willing to invest some of their time and effort to fundraise on your behalf and to be able to share your message with their friends and family members and connections. This is going to make introductions very easy because people inherently who support your organization likely have other members of their network who share similar interests, similar passions, who are likely to also be interested in your work. This also increases the impact of their donors because donors on average can raise 10 times more with a peer-to-peer campaign than they can through their own individual donation. When we're thinking about peer-to-peer fundraisers, what we should be looking at is number one, our board members. Board members obviously are representatives of your organization. Who better to share your story and the work that you do? And we would hope that our board members are very invested in the work that we do. They're a great individual to be able to participate in a peer-to-peer fundraiser. On that note, volunteers and staff, both individuals who are very likely to have, a stake in your mission to be able to want to support your work. Then also start to think about our own friends and family, some of our donors, maybe specific donor groups, or maybe people who have been impacted by the organization in the past. Like, for example, I have 2 rescue dogs at home. I had to shepherd one of them out of the office prior to this webinar. He was very insistent that he get to participate. We got our animals through a great organization in Washington, D.C., called City Dogs and Cats. My wife and I every year do a peer-to-peer fundraiser for City Dogs and Cats. My wife is now a volunteer there, and I actually know most of the people I know in DC who have a dog or a cat that they've adopted or fostered have gone through this organization now because it's helped us or it's helped them to be able to build a really great word of mouth by having people get invested in things like this, like a peer-to-peer fundraiser. So there's a number of different things that you can do. Very common charity walks, marathons, sorts of events. My wife is actually a board member. This is a great story about peer-to-peer. My wife's a board member at a nonprofit that raises funds for Alzheimer's Association. Actually, sorry, she's a board member for an organization that raises funds for Alzheimer's. How she actually first came across the organization was donating to a friend's peer-to-peer page. And what they actually do every year is they put on an annual flag football game as their big fundraising event. And all the players and coaches who participate create a peer-to-peer fundraiser that they share with their friends and family in the lead up to the big game. So golf outings, walkathons, marathons, um, I've seen like shootathons for basketball organizations, those sorts of athletic events. Birthday fundraisers, very simple ones to do. It's always really great to be able to know your donors' birthdays if you can. That's information that you can track in a donor management system. Donors love happy birthday messages from their nonprofits. And you can include a very passive ask of if you'd like to click a birthday fundraiser, click here. With Mightycause, you can actually build them a pre-built template so their page is ready to go. They just have to add their name. They can do it as part of a campaign add-on. So if we're running a specific campaign, we have an initiative, we're building a new shelter, we're adding on to our building, we have a new program that's launching, have a peer-to-peer campaign is an aspect of ways that people can participate. Giving events, Giving Tuesdays. There's lots of local giving events throughout the US. If your organization is participating in one of those giving events, that's a great time to ask your supporters to create a peer-to-peer fundraiser to help increase your impact for that. And then board challenges. We really should have a expectation that our board is fundraising and donating over the course of the year. So a great thing to do is just ask your board members. Again, with something like Mightycause, you can have a pre-built template. There's almost nothing that they need to do outside of just add their own name, and then say, "Hey, everybody, we'd like you to use this template to build your own peer-to-peer page, and all we ask is that you receive look for 10 donations from friends and family members." So make it really simple. There's nothing that's very complicated around it. If you go to a Mightycause fundraising page, there's a button that says fundraise. When they click fundraise, it'll say get started, and you can provide them with a pre-built template. So you can give them the goal, you can give them a stock image. All they really need to do is add their name, and their page will go live. You can also do team events. So these are also really common if you want to have like a little competitive aspect to the fundraising. So like I mentioned, my wife's organization that does the flag football game, they have the two teams with against each other, and then all the individual members beneath. This is a great example of what a peer-to-peer page is going to look like. So the Ben Carlson Foundation is a really awesome organization that we work with at Mightycause. They host this paddlethon every single year. You'll see with a Mightycause page, all Mark had to do was click on that template. Now he's added his own photo. There's ways for them to be able to personalize that before it goes out live, and you as an organization can review it and give it permission to then go live. And then you'll see this is what his page will look like. Support Mark Schlulen in the Ben Did Go 8.0. You see, it's very personalized. We want the ask to be focused on Mark rather than the organization, because again, we're looking for his friends and family members to support Mark. They can click here to donate, and all he needs to do to share is click this share icon. It is one click to share to Facebook, one click to share to Twitter. He can also copy and paste this into LinkedIn, to his email, to Instagram, to any other social media place that he'd like to share it. Another example of one of our peer-to-peer fundraisers here, you can see we can embed a video where they had a virtual art contest and they were able to stream that video on the page. So the last thing we're going to talk about is a donor management system. So a donor management system is really important for our nonprofits. It's really, if you have a list of over 100 people in your spreadsheets, that's typically the critical mass where it becomes too difficult to manage with spreadsheets alone. You should be looking in a donor management software. So donor management software is going to help you with the process of organizing and nurturing our relationships with our donors. This is going to help us stay on top of retention. It's going to help us better understand our donors. One of the CP certified fundraising executives that I work for said that everything in fundraising comes down to knowing who our donors are, how they like to be communicated with, and why they like to give, so that we can ask them through the right channel for the right reasons to make a donation. So having this information at our fingertips in our donor management software is going to allow us to have more personalized communications, which is going to lead to stronger engagement. So some people refer to it as a donor management software. Other people refer to it as a customer relationship management, a CRM. They're both the same thing. What they're going to be doing is managing your interactions, your donations, your volunteers, your event attendees. All the data that you need to surround your fundraising information is going to be living in one place rather than spread out through multiple spreadsheets. The goal is to streamline the process and improve donor relationships to grow your supporter base. So I talk to organizations that tell me all the time that they love to spend more time engaging with their donors, but they spend so much time in their spreadsheets and in their QuickBooks trying to pull information that at a certain point they can only get done what they can, or they can in a certain amount of time and have to move on. So we want to streamline that process. And by streamlining that process and putting more time back in your day, then you can focus on what matters most, like building those relationships with our donors. What's going to allow us to do is be a little bit more centralized, have everything in one place. It's going to allow for greater personalization, so better understanding of our donors, segmentation. This is going to allow us to be able to not only track our donor retention, but to make sure that people are staying retained, people who are not retaining, we're following back up with, and that people are receiving the sorts of personal engagement that helps to build the better donor experience. And it's going to allow us to do so in a much more time efficient manner. So segmenting your donors, that's one of the biggest things. And that can be very difficult to do in a spreadsheet. Things that we want to be able to break our donors down by, different giving levels. We should be able to look at everybody who's giving in different segments. Everyone should not be getting the same ask. It shouldn't be a generic ask. Every donation should have a suggested amount. And that suggested amount should be based on their prior giving levels. Donor frequency. Who are our monthly donors? Who are our one-time donors? Who are our lapsed donors? Life cycle stage. Where are they in this process? Are they someone that's new to us? Are they someone that's been donating for 5 years? What was our last communication with them? Who most recently got a thank you? Who most recently had an ask? Interests and preferences. Again, the example that I provided with the Humane Society. Who are cat donors? Who are dog donors? Who are people that are our volunteers? We should be reaching out to them as well. We should be thanking them. We should be asking about them other ways to get involved. We should let them know about other opportunities to volunteer in the future. And communication preference. Some people prefer email. Some people prefer traditional letter. Some people prefer a phone call. Your communication should be a mix of all three. And we really should be focusing if someone says, hey, I do not want to receive emails. I'd like a letter quarterly. Then let's send them that letter quarterly. But having all that information in one place in a donor management system is going to make it easier to be able to track that and to pull that up quickly. So when you're finding that the spreadsheets are a bit difficult, when you have multiple tools to track donor information, that's the time to be looking at a donor management system. Another big piece is think about time. Is your information automatically pulling into one place? With Mightycause, every donation is automatically tracked, so there's no manual entry. Someone makes a donation online, it'll either create a new contact. So if I donate to your organization for the first time, it'll create a Josh Garcia profile. It'll record that donation. Every email, phone call, donation, thank you, every engagement time that I volunteer is going to be automatically tracked on my customer profile. For an offline gift, you could very simply add that right to the individual donor profile or mass upload with a spreadsheet. If you're spending time, if I asked you right now to say, reach out to everybody who donated between $100 and $250, if that takes you more than just a few minutes, that's probably time to start looking at a donor management system. If I ask you, what is your donor retention rate from this past year and how much money has been lost from our donors that were not retained? Again, if that takes you more than just a few moments, that's time for a donor management system. And if you're spending too much time, if a really large part of your day or anyone in your team's day is entering information into a system to try and keep track of this information, then it's time for a donor management system. With Mightycause, you'll see here we have a contact profile. So there's a whole segments of our contacts. Every donor is in there. We can add different custom filters. We can drill down by city, by donation amounts, custom tags here. I can easily pull up my major gift givers versus my first-time givers versus everyone who attended a specific event. On a contact record, we'll see Connie's been donating since 2020. She's raised over $12,000. She's donated on Giving Tuesday. We have her contact information. Last time she donated was $500 as part of Ride for the Cure. Having that sort of information is going to help us to be able to build a relationship. Also, just when you're thinking about the long-term success of your organization, when you bring in a new staff member, it's going to be very helpful for them to be able to pull up Connie's profile there and to be able to have a good understanding of who she is so they can reach out and personally introduce themselves rather than just a name and number on a spreadsheet. As I mentioned, Mightycause has a number of resources that you can leverage. If you would like a demonstration of our fundraising software and tools, you can find that easily on mightycause.com and you can request a demonstration. When it comes to support questions that you have for us, our support staff can be reached at support@mightycause.com. That is all of our support is in-house and live. Webinars, we host several webinars a month. They range on a wide variety of topics. I host a number of those there. All those webinars are always recorded, so you can always go back and look at them. So you can go and look at previous webinars. You can register for those, and if you don't have the opportunity to attend, you'll get the recording. We have a number of ebooks as well. These ebooks, different tools. We had some links to those throughout the slides here. So when we send out the slides, you can see that in the PowerPoint. Ebooks can be guide for seasonal giving, for donor engagement, for how to best leverage some of our tools, peer-to-peer, etc. And we have a blog that we maintain as well with different tips, tricks, best practices, and how-tos. So that is all I had for my presentation today. So I wanted now to be able to do take an opportunity for any questions that anyone might have. So you can all feel free to add those questions into the chat. Carly, if you want to just let me know of any of those questions that are coming up.
Yeah, I'd love to. This has been so great. Thank you for being so thorough. Lots of stuff to consider, lots of new ideas that people can give a try. Yes, if anybody has any questions, drop them in the chat. Some did come in during the presentation, so let me hop right into those. All right, so you spent a portion of the presentation talking about recurring donors or how to make people into recurring donors, about asking them to do so. Um, Question came in, when would maybe be the best time to kind of reach out to somebody to become a recurring donor? Would it be somebody who you would consider lapsed, or would it be, like if it's a current donor, when is a good time to kind of send that message out there and give them that ask?
Sure. Being a monthly donor, the best time to ask somebody to be a monthly donor is in your follow-up ask. So it's not going to be the next message. It's not the follow-up message to the donor, but it's the next time that you're asking that donor for a donation. So let's think of like Giving Tuesday, for example. Let's say I make a donation. You take a look at everybody who's made a donation in Giving Tuesday. And I'm one of your donors. Josh Garcia made a donation to your nonprofit for $100. After that, you're going to send a thank you to me, thanking me for my $100. You're going to let me know about the impact of the gift, how it's going to help support your mission. You're going to want to have a follow-up, usually a few weeks later, and say, hey, thank you for being one of our participants who donated on Giving Tuesday. Um, as a whole, we raised $10,000. That $10,000 is going to go towards X, Y, and Z. Your support made that possible. We look forward to sharing with you some updates about those. The next time that you're making that ask, so maybe it's the next quarter. So I donated the end of November, January, February, after you've already sent me thank yous, after you've already sent me one or two updates on how the donations have gone, you're going to follow up with an ask for me for a donation, and that's when you're going to ask for a monthly donation. And you're going to
Ah.
say, thank you so much for that gift of $50. Your donation and with a donor management system, you can pull this information very easily. Your donation, thank you so much for your gift on Giving Tuesday of $100. Um, Again, your gift was able to help us with X, Y, and Z. Would you consider a donation of $15 a month? This would help make our work sustainable throughout the year, and you would personally be responsible for whatever that $15 impact statement is. Click here to donate today. So now, we've had a couple thank yous, but now the next ask is basically based off of your last gift. This is a suggested monthly amount, and you're doing it in a way, again, where we're focusing our phrasing around the impact. Um, if you're like, I'll use a Humane Society for a good example. Thank you so much for your gift of $100. Your donation helped us to provide 4 animals with a month's worth of food. Um, we have a number of exciting initiatives here in 2025, 2026. We have a lot of things coming up. We're going to be supporting more animals than ever. A gift of just $15 a month would mean that every month your gift would help provide meals for another animal. Would you consider making a monthly donation today with a link to your donation page?
Well, speaking of Humane Society, I've got my dog here growling at me currently. She's wondering what we're talking about over here. Um, so if you hear a growl, it's not me. That would be the dog. Okay, love that. So great. Let me know if there was any follow-up questions to that in the chat. Okay, another question came in while you were talking about segmentation. Um, any tips on, like, maybe I'm just getting started trying to figure out my segments or trying to figure out where to start doing my segmentation. So, what would you prioritize? Maybe would it be, the question is saying first cut, maybe giving level, and then within each level, maybe frequency. What would you give for advice if that's something I'm just starting to work on?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that we'll want to start using some of those like filters and segmentations for. An immediate one is giving level. So just start to break down just different pools and pockets. Um, it could be, 0 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000. You'll want to look at typically probably like per year.
Okay.
It's like how much people have given over the course of the year, how much they're typically giving. That's a pretty easy, simple one to start with. I'd also start to build out some basic levels of tags, like people who've attended an event. So if your organization hosts an event or two, create just some tags. Everybody who attended, let's apply a tag to that so that we know they're an event attendee. Anyone who's participated as a volunteer, let's create a tag so that we know that there's some of our volunteers. Then as we start to do more things, we'll start to create more tags. So Then we'll start to look at our peer-to-peer fundraisers, our recurring donors, um, people who are lapsed, people who are retained. But a good place to really start with is just going to be some of the basics, basic giving levels, basic event attendees, basic volunteers, just little quick things to be able to have a good higher level, vision of who our donors are.
No, that those are great tips because I feel like sometimes that can seem like such a big um like thing to get started or a big thing to like start implementing, but you're exactly right. It can be something as simple as, let's look at yearly giving and then if they're an event attendee, maybe they have different messaging because maybe they're going to come back to that event again next year, so you want to make sure that you're giving them different options to give and things like that. So I love that advice. You talked a lot about peer-to-peer fundraising. Personally, peer-to-peer fundraising is my favorite form of fundraising. I think it's so fun. I think people can get so creative. Here at MemoryFox, we often talked with people about how easy it can be because when you have peers that are fundraising, they really get a chance to tell their own stories, right? And then how that works with fundraising. Um, I was going to ask if you had maybe if there are any nonprofits that haven't dipped their toes into peer-to-peer fundraising yet, and maybe are looking for kind of a great liftoff fundraising campaign to get started, what would be your advice of like maybe a great first peer-to-peer idea to get started using that type of fundraising?
Yeah, I think a really great one would be Giving Tuesday. I think that's a really easy one. So I would say if you wanted to like have like your first like launch of a campaign, it would be Giving Tuesday, or if you participate in another similar sort of giving event.
Right.
What I would do is I would ask first, I would go and look at people, identify my volunteers, staff, board members, some of those people who we know are like our warmest audience, our warmest people, people that we know we have good relationships with already. And I would ask those individuals and say, this year for Giving Tuesday, we're going to be doing a peer-to-peer campaign. We'd love it if you could help support us by creating a peer-to-peer campaign and reaching out to 10 individuals to make a donation. Again, with something like Mightycause, we can create a template for us to be able to build a donation page upon or a peer-to-peer page. So it's actually like very simple. Um, I can actually, I can even show you here, really
Oh
quick.
yeah, let's see it.
One second.
Yeah, I think any if you can, as easy as it can be for someone to set up their own page, add their profile, make it where they can personalize with their a little bit about themselves. Like it's so fun when like you said, people want to give to people that they know. So it's so great when they can do that. Oh yeah, this looks beautiful.
So here, what you're seeing is the Mighty Cause page. So what you'll be able to do here is click fundraise. And you'll see I'll click get started. And I'm going to use the template provided by the organization.
Great place to start. Love that.
And now, as you can see, my page is basically built for me. Very simple. Now I can customize it as I like, but all I really need to do is add my first name. And my page is ready to share. Now I can make edits to it if I like, if I want to make it a little bit more personal. I can add
Yeah,
photos
your
of
own
all these
photo.
different
Yeah.
sources. So maybe I want to include my own dogs here. Maybe I want to create my own goal. I feel 1,000 is not ambitious enough. I want to go for 2,500. Um, they have a pre-built story, but if I want to share anything about, my experience with the organization, I can add that in here. And then I can hit publish and my page will be live. As I mentioned, to share, one click to Facebook, one click to Twitter, one click to email, one click to copy this link, and I can paste it into LinkedIn or anywhere else that I like. Super simple. So for
That's so
your
great.
campaign, so something like this, what you would do is, I have to go back. I can go into my contacts. If I want to pull out, a specific tag, I can pull those individuals out. So you're seeing like some of those different tags in here. I might pull out all my volunteers. I might pull out all of my people in different giving levels, etc. But for a peer-to-peer campaign, I'm probably just going to pick out all of my, volunteers and all my board members, and then I'll just send them an email, very personalized email, that given their support of the organization, we'd love for them to participate in our peer-to-peer campaign. And then just provide them with a link that will go directly to that peer-to-peer page and just say, click fundraise. We have a pre-built template. It'll walk you right through. We'd love if you could share that page with 10 friends and family members to help increase our impact on Giving Tuesday. I think that's a great example for kind of like an intro peer-to-peer campaign.
I love that. I think that's so fun. Yeah, I just think peer-to-peer fundraising is like not enough people are doing it. Like, let's get on board and get started, right? But yeah, Giving Tuesday is a great one. Any of your local giving days. I know like in Buffalo, they do like 716 Day, so that's something that just happened, but it would be, really great if you're going to prep for something like that. Get your community involved, get everybody on the same page. Love that. All right, Josh, that's all the questions I have. So now my final question for you would just be if there was one major takeaway today that you think our audience can get started doing tomorrow, what would be like your final takeaway tip for our audience today?
I think that my biggest tip for everybody would be to focus on donor retention, specifically by showing love to our donors. So if there was, anything that you were to go out and do immediately after this, is I would say, go and take a look at everybody who's donated so far this year, and reach out to them and thank them for that last gift. Tell them what that donation went towards and how it's made an impact.
That's a great tip, and it's a great time to do it because it's July. We're gearing up for fall fundraising. We're gearing up for Giving Tuesday. We're giving up for end of year campaign. So it's a good time to check back in with those people that donated in January, February, March. Let them know we got some cool stuff coming up. I love that. Great tip. And of course, from the MemoryFox side of things, we would always say, put a video in that follow up, right? Really tell them a thank you from you actually saying it. So I love that. Speaking of MemoryFox, so thank you, Josh. We have loved learning from you today. This is great. Like I mentioned at the top, we are going to send out the recording after this, so everyone that registered will get a copy of this. And then of course, we're going to let you get in contact with Josh as well so he can answer any additional questions. Once you start implementing some of this stuff, you can go ahead and let him know if you have any questions and maybe learn more about Mightycause. So thanks, Josh.
Thank you, everyone.
And if anybody would like to stick around and learn a little bit more about MemoryFox, I would love to give you a real quick overview of what we do here at MemoryFox. So let me just take a second to share my screen. Looks like we got some love in the chat. Really good stuff. Yeah. Um, Yeah, say by. That's right. They say that by when you get to the year end with donors, the cake's already baked. Yes, good idea. Start baking now. Start making sure people know about everything you're doing, know about the impact their dollars have already made and will continue to make. So, so important. All right, let me just pull up just a couple slides here so I can fill you in on the cool stuff that we do at MemoryFox. I'm gonna do that. All right, wonderful. So, anybody that wants to learn just a little bit more about MemoryFox, give me 5 minutes of your time. I always love to start off with this question, and that is if someone asks you, what is your mission? Can you show them? And then I ask if you find yourself saying no, what exactly do you feel like is stopping you? When we talk to nonprofits, we actually find that there are four main pain points when it comes to nonprofit storytelling. Number one, collecting content from our community is like pulling teeth. Number two, organizing content is frustrating and very time consuming. Number three, we need a more efficient and modern way to share our story. And number four, I struggle with collecting community stories ethically. Well, here at MemoryFox, we actually built a technology solution that addresses all four of those pain points through our three-step process. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of that today, of our collect, organize, and share process. But I really want to note that we understand that nonprofits have been given the impossible task of competing in the attention economy while also remaining true to ethical standards for authenticity in storytelling. So we take ethical storytelling very seriously here. In fact, when we did our first survey and our first ethical storytelling report, we found that 58% of nonprofit professionals say that they struggle with wanting to collect stories from their community while doing no harm. So that usually is a big barrier to storytelling because we simply don't want to do any harm by re-traumatizing our community or putting them in a place where they feel like they need to share their stories in exchange for services. So that's something we take super seriously here. We'd love to talk with you about your unique ethical storytelling goals when you have a chance to grab a time with us. But as a quick overview, kind of the first thing that we do is we help you collect stories. So step one would be collecting. When you have MemoryFox, you generate a campaign that you send directly to the person you want to get the story from. If you want to check it out yourself, there's a sample campaign. You can grab that QR code there and submit a little story as an example. But basically, you can send it to your program participants, your donors, your board members, anybody that you want to get the story from. And you're going to be able to share it as a code or a QR code or a link. Some stuff to keep in mind when it comes to our collection piece. There's never any download or login required for people. They don't have to download an app to be a part of your storytelling. We also help you capture contact info as well as manage your consent up front so you know that when stories get submitted to you, you actually can use them. And you also have the option to go ahead and redirect storytellers right back to your website. So they might not even know that they ever left your website to come to MemoryFox. They're just going to feel like it's all about you. In terms of organizing, once those stories get sent through, get submitted to you through MemoryFox, all those stories are going to populate in your MemoryFox story bank. So in your story bank, that's where everyone on your team is going to have access to the stories where they can edit, tag, filter, check out those stories and really approve them and see what you want to do with them. You can tag by program, event, department, use. We also offer a bulk upload option where if you already have an existing library of content, or maybe you have content living in a lot of places, we'll help you put that all into your story bank so you can get started. And we also offer unlimited storage, so we don't want to hinder you from collecting as many stories as possible. In terms of sharing, once all those stories come into your story bank, we actually have quite a few tools that help you share your story in a more modern way. So we have a video editor, for example. We also are integrated with Canva. So that means that all the videos and photos that your storytellers have sent to you are actually going to go directly into your Canva account in the high quality original, which is so important when you're trying to use content and make sure that it looks nice. We also offer a story builder where you can build web pages that you can embed in your website, or they can be standalone that have where you can display all types of photos and videos and written testimonials so people can find a lot of stories in one place and they can check out a lot of impact that they're making. And like I said, we do everything through an ethical storytelling lens. So here's just a little bit about our ethical storytelling features. First, we do offer an equitable pricing model, and that's because we believe every nonprofit deserves to tell their story and that they have great stories to tell. So we work with you to find a price that we think will work well for your organization. I already mentioned consent, but that is something that is built in, editable. You can put in everything you need into your consent form, as well as consent removal at any time. So storytellers, if they want to take back their consent, we make that easy too. In terms of privacy, we want to let you know that MemoryFox never owns your content. Your stories are yours for your organization to use. We do not use them. We do not claim ownership on them. In terms of accessibility, in order to, you can collect stories from anywhere that somebody is able to use their device. You can use it from your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, your phones, whatever makes the most sense for your storyteller. That is great because that means they can share when and where they are comfortable. And finally, everything about MemoryFox is customizable. So that way you can put your community's strength-based language within your context, within your prompts, making sure that everybody knows exactly what you're looking for and they feel like you are speaking directly to them. So if anybody does want to learn more about MemoryFox, I mentioned this at the top, but we are doing a super, super awesome promo this month. It's called the Summer Storytelling Blitz. If you enter the Blitz, you will have a chance to win $5,000 worth of prizes. First, if you submit a story to our Blitz campaign, you'll be entered for a chance to win a $500 donation to your nonprofit or the nonprofit of your choice. The more stories you submit, the more entries you get. We're looking to get 5,000 stories. I'd love to see what you would like to submit. And then finally, if you want to enter for a chance to win a MemoryFox membership, we are going to be giving away one membership this month. All you have to do is meet with us, do our discovery call, talk about your ethical storytelling goals, learn more about exactly how MemoryFox might work for your organization, and then you'll be in the running for that. So I'm really excited, hoping that a lot of you will want to learn more. Let me drop those links in the chat as well while I have you here. So you can definitely get started with MemoryFox. I'm gonna stop my share, get you into the chat here. Yes, of course. I am happy to share all this info. I hope that you all are interested in learning more about MemoryFox, joining the Storytelling Blitz. This has been such a fun initiative that, of course, is going to wrap up in about a week. So you only have a few chances left. But here's where you can submit your stories, as well as sign up for a time to win a free account. There's the web page for you. Would love to meet with you. Would love to learn more about your organization. And thank you all for coming today. Like I said, this recording is going to be going out shortly, so keep your eyes on your inbox. And I look forward to chatting with you all next month. Our next event that we have coming up is going to be one of our Narratives with Integrity panels. And this one is specifically going to be about AI and storytelling. So, if you have been ever wondering if AI has any connection to ethical storytelling or how we can make sure we're using AI ethically when it comes to storytelling, definitely go ahead and sign up for that event. And I'm going to see you there, obviously, but I'm so excited to get your questions and start seeing what we can help learn together. So thank you all again for coming today. Have a wonderful rest of July. Hope to see some of you join the Blitz and looking forward to seeing you all at our next event next month. Have a good day.